Recording in progress.
All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late, but I'm here. I'm glad to see you all here too. If you all can hear me, I'm going to open up one of my things in my chat box, and because I have a couple of things, and just to let me know you can hear me because I'm discombobulated this morning for some reason. All righty, chat box open. You can hear me. Okay, great. All righty. Let's see. Very good. All right. So how's everybody feeling this morning? Everybody feeling okay? Have a good night's sleep? I had a good 7, 8 hours of sleep last night. Well, about 7. I watched a movie last night. All right. So we're going to get started here a little bit. Let me let some people in. You guys get your cup of coffee and, as I usually say, put your fiber in it. But hold that thought. Don't put your fiber in it. That's one of the things we're going to discuss today because I have to give you an apology um, for misleading some of you about the fiber, but I want to go ahead and explain to you all about that. And I'll do that during the talk, okay? So yeah, when I was telling you I got my 7 grams of fiber in my coffee, it was good. I did have 7 grams of fiber in my coffee. But as it turns out, it wasn't the all-knowing type of fiber that I wanted you guys to have, okay? So it gave me some inulin and acacia, which is a good thing. That feeds my microbiome. We'll explain all that to you in just a second. Okay, so go ahead and give yourselves a few seconds to go ahead and get settled. I put my glasses on and I look and see if I can let some other people in as we get started here. Okay, are we able to send a friend? You can send anybody here you want to. Are we able to send a friend link and also join the world? Absolutely. That's the cool thing about it is that what people don't know, they don't know. And the one thing I want to do is to get this out to the world, primarily because even certain things that I discovered and I experiment with, I want to give you an example of an experiment that I just did at 5 o'clock this morning. But even those things, I'm just finding out. So there's always something to learn on these webinars. So I want you to spread the word. Give the link to anybody you want to. All right. And basically, my promise to you is that it won't be the same next week. Just like my promise to you today was that today's talk won't be the same as last week's talk. So you're always going to learn something new. So that's the part I promise you. But today is going to be an interesting day because in some cases, I had to say that I was wrong about certain things. I had to say that I was wrong about certain qualities of things that I was telling you about that I need to explain to you. Because the one thing that I want to get across to you is that I want to improve your lifestyle. I want to improve your quality of life so that you can live long, happy, and prosperous forevermore. Okay? So there are some things that I will get wrong every now and then. And I will basically do the research on it. People will call me out about it. You can call me out on about it. But for the most part, the things that I get wrong, I'll admit them to you. All right. Now, when I'm talking about what I got wrong before, it's not really wrong. It's just that I didn't give you all the best information that you deserve. And excuse me for looking a little funny. I guess I got the sun shining in here a different way, but anyway, I don't know if that matters or not. But anyway, so I'm going to get started. Let me see if I got anybody else in the waiting room that I need to go ahead and get in here. Not too many. Okay. All righty. How do we do this? Well, let's see. I think all you need to do is if you're talking about how you invite other people in, just give them the link that you were sent and send that link to them. I'm not your guru as far as that is concerned. So somebody smarter than me will have to kind of answer that question. Okay. Okay. As in, if anybody knows how to answer that question put it in the chat box okay? Make sure I have the charger. All right, so everybody said that they're doing okay, and that's a good thing. We're gonna get started. First of all, let me do one other thing. Let me ask you if anybody have any questions from last week's discussion. Any questions? Any questions? All right. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna sort some take a little sip of this. It's a little different, right? My coffee is still here. All right. I'm going to share my slides if I can possibly do it. Let's see if I can do it. All right, so here we go. Put it in projector mode, slideshow mode, I guess. So for those of you who speak Spanish, you can kind of follow along down at the bottom there. There's a Spanish interpretation of you. Those of you who want to learn Spanish, this is a good way to learn Spanish. That's how I do it sometimes. But everybody else who's not interested in that, just ignore the stuff that's going on at the bottom, okay? The title of today's talk is basically protein, fiber, and healthy fats, all right? But the main thing I want to discuss is fiber. If I only knew, okay? So, because we talk a lot about the amount of protein you should get in every day. And so we talk about before that we're supposed to take in 0.75 grams to 1 gram of protein every single day, which means that if your ideal body weight, for example, is 150 pounds, you're supposed to take in 0.75 grams to 1 gram of ideal body weight. You say if your ideal body weight is 150 pounds, you should be taking in 110, 112 grams of fiber to 150 grams of fiber. We want to be in that range. So almost everybody on this talk, on this webinar, should be taking in greater than 100 grams of fiber a day. I only say that because the majority of us are not taking in that much, because that's a lot of food if we're trying to take it in with whole foods. And when I talk about that, I'll go ahead and talk about, okay, fine, yeah, we all need to supplement. But today, we're going to be talking about a little bit about the protein and the fiber and the healthy fats, but mostly on the fiber, because there's things that if I only knew from my research that you didn't know, I would pay it more attention. Because when I tell you to take your protein, your fiber, and your healthy fat, that's what I want you to do. But there are a couple of things that matter. And the things that matter is not so much the quantity. The quantity does matter because we say, okay, fine, you got to take 25 grams of fiber. And basically in men, you got to take 38 grams of fiber. So the quantity does matter. But more important than the quantity is the quality. So, and again, you guys have to forgive me because I just assume, and I do that too much. And let me just kind of tell you one other thing. When you go to your doctor, I've been in this business for 40 years. When you go to your doctor, you don't ask questions with your doctor. They're going to assume you know stuff, and you probably don't. So you're going to come out of that office and say, well, he didn't tell me anything bad, so I must be okay. It's the wrong assumption. He's assuming that you know, he or she is assuming that you know. You're assuming that they're going to tell you something that you don't know. It's not going to work out. You've got to communicate. So I apologize for that one thing, is that basically when I get off these meetings and somebody comes up to me and says, hey, doc, what about this? Because the one thing that brought me to this attention was a friend of mine who was taking fiber. The amount that I told him to take in, 25 to 35 grams of fiber, 38 grams of fiber per day, taking it in. But he was taking it in the form of gummies. And I scratched my head and said, whoa, where did I go wrong on this one? What did I, so I had to really scratch my head. I says, okay, fine. I told people to take fiber. And you're right. I did not tell you the kind of fiber to take. I did not tell you the quality of fiber to take. So people went out there to the stores, to the Publix, to the Kroger's, to the Safeways, and they went out there and they looked up fiber on the shelf. Anything that said fiber, anything that said 7 grams, 8 grams per serving, they got it and put it in the cart. Okay, I get it. So I have to pay more attention to what I teach, and I got to get more in the details. I don't want to get too much in the weeds. Sometimes I do that, and I lose people. But there are certain things that are worth getting in the weeds over. And this one thing about fiber is gummies ain't it. Gummies ain't it. I'm going to show you an experiment that I did, like I said, at 5 o'clock in the morning to show you the mistake that I made in telling you some of this stuff. so that you'll see what it is that I want you to do. I'm just going to kind of give you a brief scenario here. Fiber, I use fiber for several things for your health. The fiber in your diet is primarily the things that you know about it because your mom and dad and pops and grandma always told you eat your fruits and vegetables. They didn't tell you how much. They didn't tell you that how much was important. They just say eat your fruits and vegetables. Was that a bad thing? No, that was not a bad thing. That was a good thing. But yeah, how much does matter? Yeah, quantity and quality does matter. So we've been taking our fruits and vegetables in all the time, and yay to the vegetarians, they take a lot of fiber all the time. The protein is a little bit of a struggle, but well, that's another story. But they get a lot of fiber, and the quality of fiber and the diversity of the fiber is extremely, extremely important. And again, just take for granted that your doctors are assuming, sometimes they're assuming that you know this, and sometimes they may not even know. All right. So anyway, so what I want to talk to you about is the quality and the quantity of your fiber, and basically the type of fiber that we should be taking in. And when you're in the realm of trying to accomplish two things, losing weight and getting your fiber in, it can present as a problem. But as I was getting ready to say, the fiber does several things. Number one, the basic thing that a lot of people know that fiber does is basically decreases your glucose response. In other words, you can take in glucose and basically it'll decrease your glucose response and therefore decreases your insulin response. And maybe you didn't know this, but thirdly, it actually decreases your LDL cholesterol. Those three things are vitally important. Decreases your glucose, therefore it decreases your insulin, therefore, and also it decreases your LDL and your cholesterol. Those are the three main things that we as physicians tell you to eat your fiber, okay? What you probably didn't know, but what you probably know if you've been on these webinars is that fiber does one other thing. Once fiber gets into the colon, it basically metabolizes and puts out short chain fatty acids. And those short chain fatty acids are three, but the most important one is butyrate, because what does butyrate do? Butyrate actually stimulates the cells in your intestinal tract to stimulate to make GLP-1. GLP-1 is that product we're going to talk a little bit about today. I'm going to ask you some questions about it. GLP-1 makes you feel full. It decreases your hunger pangs, PANGS, meaning that you don't crave certain foods. And basically, it actually decreases or blunts your ghrelin response. What is ghrelin? That ghrelin is that hormone that's active in your body that says, I'm hungry this morning, especially when you hadn't eaten all morning. All right. So GLP-1 does all that. But why do we want it to do that? Because the ones of us who are on here because of our weight issues is that we have hundreds of thousands of calories of fat stored that we're not mobilizing. We're not getting that fat off. We want to get the fat off. So when we activate GLP-1, GLP-1 makes us feel full on smaller amounts of food. That means we're not taking in a bunch of calories. So the first rule of fat loss, weight loss equals fat loss that I'm talking about. The first rule of weight loss is calories in versus calories out. They cannot be equal. If your body requires 2,500 calories a day and you're taking 2,500 calories a day, you will not lose the fat. All right. So the first rule is basically you got to create a calorie deficit. All right. Calories in has to be less than calories out. All right. So if you get full on smaller amounts, you're on your way to eating less calories, creating a calorie deficit. If you blunt your ghrelin, the I'm hungry hormone, eating less calories won't stimulate your ghrelin to say, hey, you didn't eat enough, I'm hungry. It blunts that. That's GLP-1's function number 2. And basically GLP-1's function number 3, you feel full on smaller amounts of food, you decrease your ghrelin response, you decrease your cravings. Because when our insulin goes up and goes back down, we start to crave something. So GLP-1 has a special effect in the mesolimbic system of our brain, and it blunts our dopamine release, meaning that it blunts our pleasure response to food. And I don't mean that it gives us a high or anything of that sort, but when we eat something, we get a dopamine release, especially refined carbohydrates, cookies, crackers, soda, cakes, all those things that when we eat it, we say, that tasted good. That's the kind of pleasure I'm talking about. It tasted good. Let me have another bite. So you can see where that kind of pleasure response leads to another bite, leads to another bite, leads to another bite. And eventually you'll overwhelm your calories in versus calories out. So we want those three functions of GLP-1 to basically take away the calories that we have so much of abundance on. That's how we lose the fat. Okay, we're just tricking our body. All right. So anyway, we're going to be talking about fiber in that aspect of it. So let me go ahead and get to it. If I only knew. And so today we're going to get you to know something. All right. Let me go to the next slide. And I always started off, my little sister told me how to do this. She told me to start with questions that I want to get to the audience. And I mean, there's something on my screen that you can't see, but I can see, and it gets in my way. So I'll pause a little bit to get it out the way. So I have no idea how to get rid of it. Questions for today. What is GLP-1? Well, I kind of just told you that, didn't I? This is open book questions, so you can answer in the chat box if you want to. You're not going to be wrong. I'm not going to let you be wrong. Okay. Number two, what are the three main functions of GLP-1? I just kind of told you those three. I'll reiterate them again, but we're going to give you those answers in just a second. GLP-1 increases satiety. Satiety means you get full on smaller amounts of food. That's the first stimulus that you're going to take something to eat. It means you're not going to take in enough calories for the day. You're going to be short because you're already full. Your body's going to say, hey, that wasn't enough for me to function today. I need more. Then you go and get your fat stores. If you don't have fat stores, then this is not for you, okay? All right. So then there's some people here that don't have fat stores, but they're here for a different reason. It's primarily the fiber thing, okay? So what food nutrients activate GLP-1? I'm going to show you, and I'm going to tell you right here, that different foods and the priority of foods, and in our literature, there's an abundance of, so I'm going to tell you in layman's terms what's abundant in our literature. We've known for decades that prioritization of certain food groups while we're eating gives you different results. So what we want to do is when we want to activate GLP-1, we prioritize protein first, healthy fats second, like olive oil, walnuts, things, salmon, things of that nature, and then fiber. Okay. All right. So that's when we want to activate GLP-1. Okay. Because, and I'm going to show you the anatomy in just a second, because if you eat the protein first, the first part of that protein is going to go into the small bowel, which is going to give you that first blip of GLP-1. Don't want to lose you here. But if indeed we got high cholesterol, if indeed we got problems with insulin resistance, because 80% of the world does, then we want to prioritize a different food first. When we sit down on our plate, we want to eat, if our cholesterol is too high or our insulin resistance, what do we want to eat first? We don't necessarily want to lose weight. I got high cholesterol, I got high blood sugar, I'm pre-diabetic, or I'm type 2 diabetic. What do we want to prioritize first? We want to eat the vegetables first. So there are decades of studies, and I don't have to go through them, but just promise me, if you want me to bring them, I'll show you the list of studies, hundreds of studies, maybe thousands, that have shown that eating the fiber first will blunt your LDL cholesterol, and I'll show you why, and it'll blunt your hyperglucosemia, elevated glucose, and therefore, as a result, you won't have an elevation of insulin, which is the basic root cause of insulin resistance. And insulin resistance leads to a lot of things. Let's continue. All right. What are the two types of fiber? Easy for me. Two types of fiber are soluble and insoluble, right? What's the insoluble? What's the big deal, doc? Well, the soluble fiber is what we kind of want to handle that cholesterol, to handle that GLP-1. To get the soluble fiber to our microbiome is the cool thing. The things that you all think about fiber, and it's, again, it was an eye-opener to me that people thought primarily that fiber, and your mother told you to eat fiber, was primarily for your bowel consistency, your bowel movements. Because when I would tell people all the time, did you get your fiber in this week? I don't know, doc. My bowel movements are just fine. Whoa. I missed something in the messaging there. So when the majority of people are telling me that, yeah, this is my bowels are moving just okay, or yeah, I need more fiber because I'm constipated. Yeah, I sort of missed the message. So yeah, the insoluble fiber is the one that kind of provides the roughage. It provides the irritation of the colon wall, and it provides the bulky bowel movements. That's cool. And it also sucks in the fluid, gives you a nice bowel movement. That's cool. But the insoluble fiber is not what you need. That it has to be a nice balance because again, your microbiome depends upon a nice balance in your colon. But the main thing that we're talking about is getting you that good soluble fiber, all right? And that's what we've been missing out on. All right. Two types of fiber, soluble and insoluble. Name a couple of advantages of dietary fiber. Well, I just gave those to you. Okay. Lowers your LDL cholesterol, lowers your insulin level, lowers your glucose level. And the fourth thing it actually does is it increases the release of butyrate that stimulates GLP-1 in your colon. GLP-1 does those three things. So don't want to get it too deep here, but I'm hoping you follow. And this is recorded. So this will be put in some form of fashion onto the website as well. So you don't have to necessarily take notes. You can if you want to. How much fiber should we consume each day? That's just what I'm talking about. Quantity matters, but more so quality over quantity. So if you have to know there's 25 grams for women, 38 grams for men, or rounded up to 40 grams for men, that's what I always tell people. You take your 40 grams today, sir? Yes, sir, I did. Did you take your 25 grams today, ma'am? Yes, sir, I did. All right, we're okay. But there's great literature out there that shows that if you have better quality, you don't have to take as much. And so we're not able, especially if you've had surgery, you've had a stomach reducing type of surgery, which is the sleeve and the gastric bypass or whatever, you're not going to able to get that much food in. So you have to take supplements. And I was giving you a supplement to take, telling you to take it 5 times a day in order to reach your needs of your fiber. That was the part that was wrong. Because that supplement that I was telling you had the number, had the quantity, but it didn't have the quality. It was missing one thing. One of the main ingredients was hydrolyzed. Came off the shelf in Amazon to be accurate. And once I evaluate it, I'm going to show you the experiment that I did. Okay. Anyway, how much fiber should we consume each day? 25 to 40 grams, if you must know that. But you can take it down to 10 to 12 grams if it's high quality. It's just sort of the difference between an aerobic, a zirconium diamond, and you can get a 1 carat zirconium diamond versus you can get a 1 carat real brilliant diamond. And it's the quality that matters. They both weigh the same, so the quantity is the same. It's the quality that makes the difference. Same thing with everything else in the world. Yeah, quantity is good, but if you have more quality in one product than the other, quality always wins out. All right. Which is more important? How much fiber? Which is more important? I don't know what I meant by that. Oh, okay. Which is more important? This is a follow. Muscle mass. We won't talk much about this today because again, that's going to be a topic for another time because I did get the exercise physiologist to agree to come. Which is more important today? Muscle mass, muscle strength, or muscle power? I'm just kind of curious as to how many people know that answer. If you were here last week, you probably do. But if you weren't here last week, you probably don't. How many people know which is more important out of those three things? Let me put my glasses on so I can see. Okay. Okay. Very good. Very good. Yeah. So surprisingly, yeah, we got different answers there. So the most important thing as we age is power. Power. So power is that so strength allows muscle mass is one thing. So and this is what we found out through our research is that people who come in and they've had weight loss for whatever reason, they commonly lose muscle mass, but some people don't lose muscle mass. All right, so I have football players and athletes coming all the time, and they lost weight, and they say, "Hey doc, check my muscle mass." I check their muscle mass, and it's the same. I said, "That's good," but I checked their hand grip strength and I checked their power, their muscle strength has diminished. And even more importantly, their power. So what is power? Power is moving a certain weight over a period of distance in a period of time. So the shorter that period of time is, the more power you have. So if you take something and move it slowly, okay, you got a certain amount of power. If you really strain to move it slowly, then your power is decreased. But if you take it up that same amount of weight, you move it quickly, that's power. So the power has been the one thing that is definitely associated with decreased all-cause mortality. Okay, so I hope you learned something today as far as that's concerned, because muscle mass is not as important. It is important, but it is not as important as the strength and the power. So in that order, muscle power is most important, muscle strength is next, and muscle mass is that. If you lose all three, we got a real problem. And you commonly do when we take certain drugs. We lose all three. And when you lose all three, then you got a real problem, because you're going to become insulin resistant. The thing that we're going to be talking about today for the most part. Okay. Answers to the question today, we talked about what is GLP-1. It's the same thing that we've been putting in your subcutaneous tissue as a shot. Wegovy, semaglutide, Mounjaro, tirzepatide, and Ozempic. The thing is about it is that people didn't believe in it. I started to put a clip out there of Ben Bickman. He's a professor of knowledge, but he's a physiologist, a surgeon, not a surgeon. He's a PhD out of Brigham Young University. He talks a lot. You can, as a matter of fact, I have a couple of links to his talk. I'll be sharing those links with you towards the end of this talk. So he basically admits to that we found this GLP-1 drug that we're giving. We found that out from the surgeons, because they're the guys that came to us when in our operating rooms back in 1993, when we found out, 1993, they asked, hey, how are you getting these patients to lose so much weight? We said, well, let me tell you, we were so giving of our information, right? They're not giving back, though. We gave them, well, let me tell you, we used to think that because we bypassed the intestine, that we were getting a certain amount of malabsorption. But now we know, we just discovered it. In 1993, we were saying this to them. We now know that we're activating this incretin in the bowel. What is that? The incretin is GLP-1. Really? So those guys were taking notes and they went about, and in 2003 came out the first GLP-1. I forget what the name of it was, but it's way before Ozempic. All right. So they learned that from us. And Ben and Bickman actually admits to that yeah, they were the PhDs that came in and stole the idea from us, but they're not sharing the wealth with us, right? I'm kidding. All right. But I'm not kidding as to where they found out from them, where they found that out. What are the three main functions of GLP-1? We talked about it already, but it is worth repeating. Worth repeating, because the whole general function of GLP-1 is to provide our bodies with a calorie deficit. And when our bodies have a calorie deficit, some of us have 300,000, 400,000, 500,000. When you're 100 pounds, 200 pounds over your ideal body weight, you're up in the 500,000 range of excess calories that you're carrying on your body as far as fat is concerned. So we don't need 100,000 calories of fat. When you have a body fat percentage, you could do the math. Body fat percentage of healthy 20%, it's, you're not carrying around 200,000, 300,000 worth of calories. So that's extra calories that's causing problems that we don't need. Anyway, I digress. So the three main functions of GLP-1 is to increase satiety, meaning that you're going to take in less food, meaning that your body has to go to the fat store to get the calorie supply. Number two, it decreases your hunger by blunting your ghrelin hormone. Again, you're not hungry, so you're not going to eat. So your body says, hey, you didn't feed me enough today. I got to go to the fat store. And number three, it basically reduces your cravings. It turns off the pleasure. So you're not inclined to, at the middle of the night, eat the cookies, cakes, and ice creams that I used to do. Okay. So those are the three main functions. We just talked about those right there. Blunts the ghrelin, blunts the brain reward system. What food nutrients strongly activate GLP-1? We already talked about that. Protein strongly in the small bowel. That's why when you want to lose fat and you want to activate the GLP-1 as your main goal, you prioritize protein first. However, if you don't have a problem with fat, and you got a problem with your triglycerides, your LDL cholesterol is high, your doc say, hey, your cholesterol is too high, we got to put you on a statin, or else you're insulin resistant, your hypoglycemia, you're on border type 2 diabetes, then you want to prioritize what? Your fiber. All right. So again, what I'm teaching you is that food order matters. Food order matters, depending upon what you're trying to treat. Okay. All right. And look at what we're doing. We're talking about treating particular problems with food. I hadn't brought in a drug yet, other than talking about Wegovy, but I hadn't told you about a drug yet that I'm going to tell you that you need to take, right? So fiber activates the L cells in the colon, and basically healthy fats activates the L cells in the distal small bowel, okay? How much fiber should we consume a day? We talked about it, 25 to 40 grams, and the two types of fibers. What are the two main advantages? We've already talked about that. All right, very good. This is just the studies. I'm going to get to the main point of this thing because I am not going to keep you guys long today. I say that every week, don't I? But grip strength predicts death better than blood pressure. I hate to get morbid. I hate to say that word even, but it predicts death better than any blood pressure. But 99.9% of your doctors, when you come in, will not measure your grip strength. They will measure your blood pressure every single time. They'll tell you, oh, your blood pressure is high, we need to put you on a drug. But they don't tell you your grip strength. But that's the better predictor. Why don't they do that? Well, maybe they know, maybe they don't know. Maybe they didn't read this. Each 10-pound drop in grip strength equals a 16% higher all-cause mortality. Not good. And this was a valid study. You know, there's a difference between observational studies and randomized studies, and we talk about the differences. So I seek the studies that everybody's quoting and that people are not afraid to get up and talk about it in front of their peers. And this is one of those studies. 17 countries, 140,000 people, grip strength outperformed blood pressure as a predictor of heart attack, stroke, and death. So the thing that I'm gonna give away to somebody at the end of this thing, this grip strength thing that I got here, I'm gonna give it away today. Somebody won it. Hope they're here. They got to be here to win it. But it tells you if you pull that, that's better than blood pressure. All right. And so the takeaway: strength is the strongest biomarkers of longevity, stronger grip, longer life. So many of my patients who come back who were getting the GLP-1, and I stopped the GLP-1 drugs when they're drips, and this particular model will tell you for your particular age and for your particular sex, whether you're weak or not. If you're weak and you're on the GLP-1 drugs, stop it. I stop it. You got to go to somebody else to get it. But I strongly recommend you stop it, because if you're losing, muscle mass, muscle power, and muscle strength, like I said, it's better. This is the studies that show that. All right, muscle strength extends lifespan. On the flip side of that coin, out of the British Medical Journal in 2018, a meta-analysis of 1.9 million participants. High muscle strength on the flip side is equal to a 31% lower risk of all-cause mortality, 31% decreased risk. Okay, across nearly 2 million adults, stronger individuals live significantly longer and had lower rates of cardiovascular and cancer death. Takeaway: are you just innately weak? No, it has to take training. And so that's why I'm going to tell you mostly about today about fiber. But next week, we're going to be talking about what it is we need to do in order to train your muscles to get you in this range to where you're decreasing your mortality, and your morbidity. All right. So that cannot all be talked about in one topic, but I used to try to do that, but I no longer will. Cardio alone won't save your muscle. New England Journal of Medicine 2017, a randomized controlled trial in older adults with obesity found that weight loss plus aerobic training equals muscle loss. If you were losing weight and you're just doing aerobic training, you were losing muscle. But weight loss with resistance training, you were preserving muscle. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, it is so important. I can't stress it enough, because there are so many patients that come back to me and tell me that I'm getting my exercise, doctor. And what they mean by exercise is that they're walking. They're on the treadmill, they're on the bicycle, they're walking. When they come from their walk, they're through with their exercise for the day. Sometimes people do it twice a day, just walking. But they don't get their little 15-pound dumbbells or stretch bands. You got to do the resistance training, please. Only the combination of aerobic and resistance training preserves strength, balance, and walking speed. Okay. So the takeaway here is walking keeps your health young, your heart young, but lifting keeps your body from aging. All right. Kind of several other studies that show the same thing. I won't go into that. We have this thing called sarcopenic obesity, which is the worst world of all. So that when you're basically obese and you have very little muscle strength on top of that, it's a double burden. This is a study that done in 2022. Obesity, which is excess fat, obviously, plus low muscle equals a higher death rate than either alone. So sarcopenic obesity is a especially bad term that's just been recently introduced to us. Obesity combines inflammation from the fat and weakness from the low muscle. That gives you diabetes, heart disease, and frailty. So the takeaway, fat alone doesn't kill you. Fat plus weakness does. All right. So just to go back to what we talked about, protein, fiber, and healthy fats, when you take in your small bowel, this is your stomach, these yellow cells are GLP-1 cells. I still hadn't been able to figure out how to get these cells, but I need to get me a medical illustrationist. But there are no GLP-1 cells of significance in the stomach, so scratch that out. The GLP-1 cells first started in the small bowel. This is called the jejunum, and you have a lot of GLP-1 cells there. The density and the number of GLP-1 cells, meaning the yellow dots, the cells, these are representative of cells, they increase as you go further down the small bowel. So you get an increased amount here. I didn't represent that either. Then they even further increase when you get into the colon. Why am I telling you all that? Primarily because the more L cells that contain the amount of GLP-1 there are, the more GLP-1 you release. And we all know that more is better, right? I say that primarily because when you get the shot, you're getting 1,000 times the dose of what your body normally produces. And that's unfortunate, but it does work, but it causes you to lose muscle mass. It causes you to stagnate your intestinal tract. We've had reports of small bowel obstruction, small bowel perforation, stomach perforation, because it's too strong. The devil's in the details. It's a good medicine because it does the right things because we got the GLP-1 in our system, but it's the right dose that matters. I mean, you could take a teeny tiny bit of cyanide and live forever, probably. You'll get sick, but you'll live. But if you take a larger bit of dose, you'll die in a few minutes. It's so the devil's in the details of dose and all that. And we're right now thinking that we're giving too much of a dose of GLP-1. So what we're going to be trying to do is to tell you and show you how to get yourself the right dose. And the way you get your right dose is by amping up your own body's production. We know that because we've done the studies before, we've measured portal vein levels of GLP-1 in people who have a body mass index of greater than 35, meaning that they're obese. We take those levels and almost always, 99% of the time, those levels are in the toilet. They're almost non-measurable. Then when we do the surgery, we measure it again, those levels go up. All right. So the majority of the reasons that people are obese, we don't know whether the chicken or the egg, but their GLP-1 levels are super, super low. Once we stimulate these L cells to turn back on by rerouting the bowel or making it where it doesn't sit in the stomach so long with the sleeve, then we light up these GLP-1 receptors with protein, fiber, and healthy fat. However, just because we turn them on don't mean they can't be turned off again. And this is where the rubber is hitting the road. This is where I'm getting ready to start describing fiber. Because all along, I've told you all that you need to stop the refined carbohydrates, period, full stop. And you need to stop a large percentage of the carbohydrates, with the exception of the complex carbs like the vegetables and the fiber that we're going to talk about, okay? But I've changed my tune. We're going to come to a happy meeting place in the middle, and I'll show you why. Because when you eat refined carbohydrates, candy, cookies, pizza, popcorn, hot dogs, you turn off these GLP-1 cells. I won't go into, and the seed oils and all that stuff, they make breakdown products. I won't get into all that, but they are basically turning off these cells. So you've had the surgery, then you go back to eating the pizzas and the hot dogs and the cookies and all that kind of stuff, and mashed potatoes and macaroni and cheese and the pastas. You eat those things, it turns off those cells. All right? All right. But I've come to realize that me telling you, stay away from pizza, stay away from pasta, stay away from macaroni and cheese, stay away from even if you have a severe case of insulin resistance, I'll even tell you to stay away from sweet potatoes. Even though if you eat the sweet potato and you eat the skin with it, that's the fiber part. We commonly don't do that. We eat the starchy part. But I was telling you to stay away from that stuff. And when I found out, and every day going to work, I have even my own employees who listen to me every single day. You guys listen to me once a week. My employees listen to me every day. And they still weren't doing it. So I had to come to reality. This is, am I facing reality here? By preaching to the world, you got to stop this. Something that they've been raised on all their lives, the rice, the macaroni and cheese, the best baked potatoes, mashed potatoes. Am I doing anybody a good? Say, cut it out. But I know that certain people can cut it out, and those are the winners. Some of them are right here. They cut it out and they don't miss it. But am I being realistic with myself? I'm reaching 5%. Says I can do without bread. I can do without baked potato. I can do without corn on the cob. I can do without that, doc. I'm fine. That's cool, but that's 5%. That's 5%. I'm missing the other 95%. And my staff has been telling me that for years. All right. So anyway, let's go ahead to the next segment of this, because so these are the GLP-1. This is the part that GLP-1 release. Think about fiber here. GLP-1 is going to cause that release of that taking in of the fiber is going to cause your GLP-1 and the effects of the 3 effects of GLP-1 to last into the night. And that's that's 3 curves here. So you're going to take in protein. Protein is the yellow one. And then you're going to take in your fats. That gives you a delayed response, but a more amplified response. Some olive oil, some walnuts, some salmon, some sardines. Those kinds of things contain protein as well as healthy fats. So you're going to get a double whammy when you're taking some sardines and some fats. So basically, you're going to get that first hump there that only going to last a while. The protein is a short-acting stimulant of the small bowel L cells. The fats, the blue part, they are more powerful stimulant. You get more GLP-1 release, and it lasts longer. But the winner overall is fiber, because the fiber doesn't kick in for several hours. Even if you eat it on that one plate, you're going to eat all those 3 ingredients together. The fiber takes a little while to get to the small bowel to make the butyrate to make the GLP-1. So the fiber is the thing that lasts later on in the day. So it starts at 6 p.m. peaks and it gradually decreases. But you can see here, it goes away. That effect goes away at 10 o'clock. So that means you're going to be hungry at 10 o'clock. However, I didn't give you the whole picture here, did I? Because you eat a second time. When you're here, you know that we talk about intermittent fasting, and we talk about a narrow feeding window. So we eat at 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock in some cases to get an 18-hour period of autophagy or fasting. But 14 hours is just as fine. 16 hours is just as fine. So you started eating at 10 o'clock, and then this is that time I was just showing you where your fiber, that effect starts to go down around by 10 o'clock. But guess what you did at 6 p.m., just before 6 p.m., you ate again. And that eating again, you got a second wave of GLP-1 being released all throughout the night, carries you on to 10 o'clock the next day. Hey, right? Cool, right? All right. So again, the fiber is probably the most important part, and that's what I'm going to tell you today. All right. So here you go. You got your protein, your healthy fats, and your fiber. And then you're going to eat again at 6 p.m. Your protein, your healthy fats, and your fiber, lasting to the next day. And for the most part, our satiety level, our signal of feeling full, this is what we've measured in the lab, kind of stays steady all throughout the day. This is our level of satiety that keeps us where we have a sensation of, I'm not hungry. So this is the average satiety level in this particular model here. These are the meals that we just showed up. And so this is the curve that you're going to see. You can see they're all above the satiety level until 10 o'clock the next morning. All right, cool. Won't go through this, but let me get to the main. All right. This is an interesting thing. People, the fiber that we're talking about, that the one effect of GLP-1, let's leave that aside just for a second. So fiber, yeah, once it ferments in the bowel, it activates certain bacteria to make butyrate that stimulates GLP-1 for weight loss, for fat loss. Cool. Because we know that those three effects of GLP-1 gives us fat loss. That's one bucket. Let's go to the other bucket. What else are we taking in fiber for? To control cholesterol, our glucose, and basically our insulin levels, okay? So this, I won't explain this too much, but this is, the liver makes, never works for me all the time. The liver makes cholesterol, and it packages it in a truck. That truck is called the lipoprotein. So you got, it starts out at VLDL, which means it's a big molecule in the liver. Then it goes into the blood. And as it goes into the blood, think of that blood as a highway and it's in a tunnel, all right? And so it's got to make several deliveries. So that truck is an Amazon truck or a FedEx truck, and it's got cargo it's got to deliver. And as it goes along this pathway, this VLDL is going to give off some of its cargo. When it gives off some of its cargo, the very large LDL is going to shrink down a little bit. It's going to become an IDL, an intermittent density lipoprotein. The lipoprotein is just a truck. The cholesterol is inside the truck. All right. So when your doctor measures your LDL-C, in parentheses, the content, he's just measuring what's in the truck. And I'm going to show you how that doesn't matter that much. But so it's going to come down here, give off some more to your ovaries, to your other cells, and it's going to empty out. And eventually it's going to get down here, and you'll see it. Hopefully, if it works, you'll see that it becomes an LDL, which is a very, very, very tiny molecule, tiny enough that it can cause some disruption of that nice, smooth lining of the vessel here. And I'll show you. Because the big VLDL is very fluffy, so it can bounce, even if it fell out of the truck, it can bounce around and not cause any harm. And the IDL, it can bounce around and not cause any harm. But when it gets to the LDL, they get really, really small fragments of LDL, it can cause some harm. All right, let's see if I can get this thing. So you can see it'll come on down here. And it shrinks, sheds triglycerides, and it shrinks. Let's see if it'll work for me. Yep, very slow. Shrinks, and then it'll become, boom, LDL, rich in cholesterol. That's the last stop for that truck. It's giving off all the triglycerides, and now it has the LDL particles still left in it. So that truck is full. Your LDL cholesterol on your blood is still high if that truck is full of cholesterol, right? But it doesn't matter. So the reason it doesn't matter is because if this truck, this Amazon or FedEx truck, is going down the highway and there's not a whole lot of traffic, meaning that there are not a whole lot of trucks in the way, then it's going to be just fine. It ain't going to harm this wall, this arterial wall. No atherosclerosis. Right? However, if you've got 1 million of these trucks, 1 million of Amazon trucks trying to go down this highway, it's going to be bumping into the wall, trying to squeeze past. It's going to damage the wall. And even if your LDL-C is low, it's going to spill some of its cargo, and that LDL is more dangerous because even though your LDL-C is low, so your doctor will say, hey, your LDL cholesterol is good, but it's not. So that's why you just can't depend upon that LDL-C. Because what's happened is that if you got 1 million trucks, they've damaged the wall. And when you spill just that little bit of cholesterol, that little bit of cholesterol's purpose is to patch that wall. That's called an atherosclerotic plaque. And it begins to build up. It begins to build up. So the number that is more important is the ApoB, lipoprotein. The number of Amazon trucks on the road is more important than the content they carry. So if you only have one truck, but it's full, your LDL cholesterol is going to be high. Your doctor say, whoa, you need to be on a statin. Say, hold on, time out. Let's check another thing. Let's check the two things, as a matter of fact. Let's check the ApoB. Let's see how many trucks I got out there. And then you're going to check your coronary artery calcium score. If both of those are okay, hey, doc, okay, let me just go ahead and take my fiber. I'll be all right. I'm not giving you medical information, but you talk to the doctor, all right? All right, so let's continue on the next slide if I can. Yeah. All right, so I hope that, but what happens when you, if I get to the next slide, take in some fiber. All right, so we talked about, we put it in the other bucket, the GLP-1 bucket is off to the side. We won't talk about that anymore, okay? But if you take in, basically, these bile salts coming from the liver and the cholesterol coming from the liver goes down the intestinal tract. Let me pause it for a second. Now, when things go down the intestinal tract, they normally come out the stool, right? No, not always, because 95% of this cholesterol, the body doesn't want to continue to make new cholesterol over and over again. So it uses the same cholesterol over and over again. It basically doesn't throw anything out. So it'll come out through the bowel and they'll say, we're almost about to go out in the boo-boo. They don't want to go out in the boo-boo, so it's going to get absorbed in the portal vein here and go back to the liver. It's constantly supplying the liver with a fresh supply of cholesterol. So basically, when we see the second thing we do, let me go back. Let me go back one. Let's see if this was some. So when your bile salts and your cholesterol, this is your bile and your gallbladder, and it basically helps you digest fat. And it says, okay, we digested our fat. Now, rather than going out in the stool, it goes back to the liver. So the liver has a fresh supply of cholesterol particles to make new cholesterol. Well, that's not good in somebody with high cholesterol, is it? All right. So what can fiber do? So you're going to see fiber here is the blue thing that's going to come in the stomach. So you're going to eat some fiber, some guar gum, some locust bean gum. You're going to eat some of those things, right? And that's the psyllium husk. You're going to eat some of that, right? And so basically when you eat that, here comes the fiber. And the fiber then traps the bile. It's done its thing and it's trapped the bile. Now where is it going to go? It can't go in the vessels. It can't go back to the liver. It goes out through the stool. Now the liver doesn't have any substrate to make cholesterol or bile salt. So what does it do? It says, hey, I got to have some cholesterol. Where can I get it from? So where does it get it from? It gets it from your bloodstream. It sucks it up from your bloodstream. Your LDL cholesterol, your ApoB is lower. So that's what fiber does. And that's the beautiful thing about it, okay? And these are the studies that support what I just said. The impact of soluble fiber on LDL cholesterol by dose. Each 5 grams of fiber, soluble fiber, decreases your cholesterol by 60 milligrams to lower your LDL cholesterol. Relative risk reductions, high fiber versus low fiber intake, 31% decrease in this particular 185. This is a meta-analysis, 58 randomized controlled trials out of this 185. 31% decrease in coronary heart disease, 24% decrease risk of heart attack, 22% risk of stroke, 15% risk of all-cause mortality, 16% decreased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Ladies and gentlemen, that's huge. That is huge, okay? So the recommendations is, again, as far as quantity is concerned, you're going to take 25 to 38 grams a day. That's what the recommended amount is, and with most of that being soluble fiber. Where you going to get it from? Vegetables, fruits, berries, legumes, whole grains, and nuts and seeds. My point is that it's going to be a lot to get that in, but we're going to talk about that right now. All right. 3 causes of insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is the root of most diseases, including cancer. Type 2 diabetes and diabetes are a direct cause of a direct product of insulin resistance. But Alzheimer's, brain fog, kidney disease, all these things are have common channels from insulin resistance. What are the most common causes of insulin resistance? The number one cause that we're concerned about is chronically elevated insulin. You know as well as I do, is if you stimulate something so long with the same product over and over again, your body's cells become resistant. So if your insulin stays elevated all the time by eating wrong foods all the time, then your cells are going to become insulin resistant, which will lead you to PCOS, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, chronic diseases of the liver, chronic diseases of the kidney, things of that nature. All right. The root cause of most of our disease processes is chronically elevated insulin, leading to the cells becoming insulin resistant. Okay. So, higher fasting insulin meal spikes. That's why I tell you, do not listen to any personal trainer that tells you to eat 6 meals a day, at least for you guys. Now, if you're getting ready to run the Olympics, go for it. But as far as you guys are concerned, who are struggling with controlling your personal trainers are out there are actually telling some of my patients to eat 6 meals a day because you got the thermic effect of food, TEF. And I says, really? They're telling you that? Yeah, they're saying that you burn calories when you eat. Oh, so, oh Lord. Anyway, so I got to give more lectures to them as well. But that is the last thing we need is more insulin spikes. All the problems that we have with obesity is because we're chronically insulated against insulin. Our cells aren't responding anymore. That's the number one cause. Number two cause is stress. We've got to control our stress, but that's a different topic. But our number one cause is hyperinsulinemia. The one thing we can control is how our insulin goes up because we can control what goes in our mouth. The number three thing is inflammation. So stress and inflammation, we'll talk a little bit about some other point in time. But the one thing we want to talk about today is indeed the chronic hyperinsulinemia that we've got full control over. So we can take in certain things that gives us fiber. Let me just kind of go through these things. I'm going to go to my other slides. These are all the studies. Like I said, I got thousands of these studies that say food order has significant impact on prostaglandin glucose. All these things are guar gum. Now, this is a lovely article because some of the things that we take in, the fiber that I'm taking in now has guar gum in it. The fiber that I told you to take in before that I got to apologize to you, doesn't have guar gum. Anyway, we'll talk about that. All right. So anyway, I'm going to, in the interest of time, I got to finish up here because I says I'm not going to do it today. In order to get in the amount of fiber, quality fiber that we need to get in, that 25 to 38 grams a day, look at the amount of food that we got to take in. So this is the amount of food, the ingredients in the portion, 4 slices of beef bacon, because this talks about getting your protein and your fiber in. We got to take in a lot of food, but you can get your rolled oats, the raspberries and all that. So I'm just going to just briefly go through this. This will be some rendition thereof will be on the website. I'll go over it a little bit slower for you, but you got to take it in food. So if you've had a gastric bypass, if you had a gastric sleeve, if you've had anything as far as a diet is concerned, this amount of food at 10 a.m. is not going to fit. Then your meal two is going to be at dinner. What are you going to need to eat? Well, you're going to have to grill salmon to get your protein and your healthy fats. Then you're going to have 1 cup of lentils. Now, I love lentils, but I don't like eating them every day. That gives you a good 16 grams of fiber, 15 grams of fiber. And it pretty much just takes care of your half of your fiber need. But I can't eat them every day. They get kind of boring to me. Avocado gives you a little bit grams of fiber and all that, but you're taking in 1,000 calories, and so if you're taking those 2 meals, you're getting close to 3,000 calories. What's the first rule if you're here for fat loss? What's the first rule of fat loss? Calories in versus calories out. If you have to take in so much food to get your fiber and your protein that overdoes the calorie need, you're not going to lose the fat, which kind of defeats the purpose. So the amount of fiber that we're taking in that kind of goes with the amount of calories that we're taking is too much. So we've got to cut that 25 to 38 grams down. Instead of it being, that's a zirconium. We got to make it a higher quality fiber so that we can take in 6 to 10 to 12 grams per day. I'm going to show you what that is. All right. So anyway, this just kind of goes and tells you how much fiber you're taking. And basically, these things are telling you how much food it takes to take it in, and we just won't be able to do it, not consistently. And with the quality of the fiber, because the fiber that I told you to take has psyllium, acacia, and inulin. And that inulin and acacia is good for your microbiome. But unbeknownst to me, I was sort of like one of my friends that got the gummies. Unbeknownst to me, and this is the suggestion that I'm coming to, is that the psyllium that it had in there, which is what I read, it's got psyllium in there. Cool. It satisfies the criteria. It's going to give me a nice absorptive fiber in my gut that's going to absorb my insulin, absorb my glucose. It's going to take my my LDL cholesterol down. The fiber that I gave you, unfortunately, is only good for GLP-1. The fiber that I gave you is good in acacia, an inulin. And inulin is that part that goes down to the bacteria. You feed the bacteria. The bacteria says, thank you, and it produces butyrate and it stimulates GLP-1. The fiber that I've been giving you, unfortunately, full disclosure, is not that good for LDL cholesterol and glucose management. Okay, so I'm going to correct that today. I'm going to go through these slides because you need a whole food gel forming fiber plan. That fiber, that blue square that came down to the stomach is the fiber I want you to take in. It has to form a sponge because we want that sponge to take in the baked potato that we decide to take in. So this is where I'm coming to a hybrid connection with you guys, is that I'm no longer going to tell you, you cannot have a baked potato. You cannot have macaroni and cheese. You cannot have pizza. You cannot. I wasn't getting anywhere with that. I was reaching 5% of my people, and I need to be reaching 90% of my people. So I realized that I was barking up the wrong tree, telling people that they can't eat what their grandmama fed them. That was a tough pill for me to swallow, but it is what it is. All right. So now I'm not going to go to the other end of the spectrum. I'm not going to say you can have baked potato, macaroni and cheese, rice, pasta every single day, but you can watch it and basically meet me in the middle of the road. All I want you to do is when you take those products, you put on your seat belt. Put on your seat belt. And what is your seat belt? Your seat belt is going to be the right type of fiber. All right. So not the fiber that I've been giving you because it contained psyllium husk on the label. But when I tested that psyllium husk, it didn't perform a sponge. So it was not good for my cholesterol, or my glucose, or my insulin. So if I'm going to give you macaroni and cheese and if I'm going to allow you to do that, you got to have a sponge that's going to suck it up. That's the only way I'm going to allow us to meet in the middle of the road, is that you're going to have to take the fiber first, just like we talked about. Take the fiber first. And I don't care whether it's in a packet or whether it's, if you got all the fiber products, the quality of fiber products on your plate first, you take the fiber first. If you're going to eat that bread, you take the fiber first. If you're going to eat that piece of pizza, I took the fiber first when I have my CGM. I took the fiber first and basically tested it out and had a piece of cake. It spiked a little bit, but not much, not like it used to spike. So the science is there, and basically, yeah. Can you do it every day? Absolutely not. But can you enjoy Halloween meal with your family? Sure. But anyway, here you go. All right, so I'm going to give you the thing, okay? How to mimic balance with real food. This is all the stuff you got to get. You got to get beta-glucans. You got to get pectins, which is the outside peel of a pear, the apple, the orange. You got to take that in. You got to take the peel of the sweet potato. You got to eat that. If you don't want to eat that, then and make sure you eat outside of any potato, you wash it off really good, get all the spores off, because it has insecticides in it. But anyway, when you don't want to eat those things, you just want to eat the starch, you got to have something that sucks that starch up when it reaches your stomach. So you're going to take the fiber in beforehand. Okay. All right. We're no way behind. Now this just talk about the fiber targets, but all these slides are basically talking about the amount of food that you'd have to put on your plate in order to accomplish what it is I'm trying to tell you to accomplish. Okay. So take timing, hydration, and tolerance. Make sure when you take your fiber, you have enough water to take, because again, when you're taking psyllium husk or locust bean fiber or guar gum, it's going to gel, and you need to keep yourself hydrated because it'll take care of your bowels as well because you're sucking in fluid and you can become dehydrated. So we're going to take viscous fiber foods with 15, 30 minutes before carb-containing meals to blunt glucose spikes. Now, let me just kind of tell you that since I made that slide, that even has changed. So there were some studies, and I don't want to have to go through my slides to show you that study, but the study that showed that it used to be that taking 15 to 20 minutes, but Dr. Ben Bickman just recently did a study that I have in my deck somewhere that shows if you take along with the meal, not necessarily take it 15 to 20 minutes before, which is weird. Even if you take it into a form of a fiber product, you can take it with your meal and it gives you a little bit 10% better outcome than if you take it 15 to 20 minutes before. So this is old data. Apologize for that, but next time I talk to you, I'll get you the paper that shows it elegantly, an elegant study that shows that when you take the fiber with the meal, that you even get a greater drop than you get here. Split it across 2 to 3 meals. I instruct my people to eat 2 meals a day because we need a certain amount of time in order to empty our bodies of trash. That's called autophagy. And so that's called that period of 14 hours where we're not eating anything, we're only drinking coffee and water. But we've got to have a feeding window of anywhere between 6 and 8 hours. Mine is 6 hours. Sometimes I'll go and be liberal with it because if I wanted to eat right now, I would have at 10 o'clock, I would have fasted now for 16 hours. When I eat at noon, I would have fasted for 18 hours. And that allows my body to take out the trash. My feeding was between 12 to 6 or 10 to 6. I think that 10 to 6 is comfortable for most people. If you're new at fasting, don't even start there. Give yourself a 14-hour fast. 12 hours is easy. 12 hour, everybody does anyway. But 14 hours at least where you actually, 8 o'clock, last meal is at 6 o'clock. Okay. All right. Gas management. Again, what you're going to get is the quality of fibers. The fiber that I gave you, if you're having too much gas, is because it has a boatload of inulin in it. Inulin is for the microbacteria. When they ferment it, they produce gas, methane, and you pass it. But that means that your bacteria is saying, thank you. But if you give it a higher quality, you can cut down on the inulin and give it some more pectin and give it some more beta glucans and give it some more chia and flax and all that. You basically cut down on the inulin and get the same beautiful effects. Okay, all these things will feed your microbiome as well, so you don't have to have as much gas production. All right. So anyway, I'm going to go and this is my experiment. Let me get this for you right quick. This is what I did this morning, 5 o'clock. Yeah, I must not have a light, right? Let me see if I can. Right. Quick experiment for you. Just going to show you a couple of fibers in that because I have a little bit of apology to make to you. I'm going to show you this is 2 types of fibers, and I'm going to make sure that they both weigh the same, certain amount. This one is 194 grams, and this one is 198 grams. So roughly about the same, okay? So that's what we have. We're going to start this experiment, and I'm going to put a little bit of liquid in there just to show you some of the things that I talked about in the thing already. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of liquid in this one. Oops. My camera's sliding away. And a little bit of liquid in this one about the same time. And basically, I'm going to quickly stir this up. And mix it with the water. Let's see. Yeah. Mix it with the water. And I'm going to pour it through the strainer, okay? So, as I pour it through the strainer, you can see it's not going to pour through that strainer, right? It's a gel. It's very, very viscous, and it's indeed a gel, all right? All right, let me wash this out. But let me put this in there, basically. And you can see pretty much the difference, and I'll show you the difference in a second. So I get my strainer cleaned out. I have my strainer cleaned out. And so you want something that's going to be more viscous because it's going to do 3 things, right? So this is the other one. This is the one I've been telling you guys to do. So my bad
For the most part, not all bad, but because it has a high level of inulin. What is inulin? Inulin feeds your microbiome. So your microbiome has been healthy. And it also gives you that gas. But as you can see, as I demonstrate here, not a whole lot of viscosity there. It goes right through that drain. Okay, so that's it for the experiment. Now I'm gonna talk about it to you.
So that's what we did. So the part that I showed you right here, where you basically got this kind of, that's the sponge that I'm talking about. When that stuff, when you take this particular type of powder, once you mix it into your water and you drink it, you got to drink it right away. You can't let it sit. So remember when I've been talking to you, I said I got my fiber in my coffee and I put my coffee over here. It never gelled up. And it never gelled up because the amount of psyllium husk, because psyllium husk can do the same thing. Not as healthy as this, but my coffee was always drinkable. My coffee, if I left that sitting for 5 minutes, would have been undrinkable. So the psyllium husk that's on the package was hydrolyzed. So that psyllium husk was hydrolyzed. And the reason they hydrolyze it is because it makes it more comfortable going down and you can sit it down. So they're telling you that they're giving you psyllium husk, but they're breaking it down to a weaker product. And that's what we don't get. So I'm here to tell you that everything that on the shelf that says fiber, don't believe it. Don't believe that it has all the fiber that you need, especially the gummies. You know who I'm talking about. But the fiber is, the quality of fiber matters. Okay. I'm going to give you the link to this particular product. I could care less if you use it or not. Basically, you do it. We're selling it at the office. I'll give you a link to it. You can get it, but I'm not teaching you to buy products. I'm teaching you how to go to the store. You can get this from anybody, I think. But anyway, this is what I want you to do. I want you to take a screenshot of this. And this will be basically the product that I'm talking about. This one and this one, it gives you the bottle. This is that bottle that it comes in. It helps you to figure out how to mix it. If that's convenient for you, you want to get the amount of fiber in, that's the way to do it. The triple fiber, if you want to continue that, you can. You just need to go ahead and add some more metamucil to it, because that metamucil is the psyllium husk. So you put the psyllium husk along with the other fiber, the triple fiber, you get the same kind of thing. Not quite the diversity and the other effects that you get, but close, okay? Obviously, the best of all worlds is to eat all those vegetables that I just gave you a list of, but that's going to be difficult and costly. So we want to get you a concentrated brand, small amount that's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, and that's going to be convenient for you. Because I guarantee you, I can't come home and cook. I can't cook in the morning. I can't cook at all. So I'm not going to spend my time at Whole Foods picking up a bunch of different items that I saw on a website. So I'll take a packet of that and I'll just take it with me everywhere I go. And before my meals, or I'll open up, make the thing, and I'll eat it with my meal. All right. Now, this, as far as I'm concerned, is the two things that I want you to really, really do. This one right here is Dr. Ben Bickman. That's a YouTube video. I want you to watch that. This one right here, it doesn't look like it's clickable, but if you can figure out how to take a screenshot and to copy that and paste it, I'm going to give you an example of what it looks like. I think this is clickable.
Thank you, Dr. Bickman, for being here. And as a way of introduction, all right, here with Professor Bickman, came down from BYU to...
So that's him, and you can watch that thing. It's a long video, and the second video is even better, but it addresses everything that I said. And this guy is the bomb. I mean, he's up there. All right, let me see if I can go back. All right. All right, whole food, 2 meals a day summary, 3,000 calories. We can't do it. This is the summary. I want to get 30 grams of fiber. It's going to give me 3,000 calories. Can't do it. If I want to be in a calorie deficit, now if I want to gain weight, that's a different story. In other words, if you're underweight and you're on this talk, then cool. Then you can go ahead and take 3,000 calories, and you can basically take the whole foods. This 30 grams of fiber is the whole foods that you can put on your plate, but you'll get 3,000 calories a day. All right, so we talked about these things before. What I want to start doing is saying, okay, fine. I said, nope, you need to stay away from this because it's pancakes, eggs. This is what people all the time eat at Denny's all the time, every weekend. I says, no, 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 you can't do it. My status has changed. You can do it, but you got to put your seatbelt on. And your seatbelt is that you got, instead of that glass of orange juice, you can put a glass of fiber there, and then you mix it, you take it, you drink it within a minute of you mixing it, and then you can eat the pancakes and all that. Basically, like I said, my test has been with ice cream and cake, and my continuous glucose monitor didn't bump very much, much to my pleasant surprise. So no longer am I going to tell you to stay away from this. Well, I am going to tell you to stay away from fried foods because it has too much seed oils. But the mashed potatoes, people would say, no, Doc, I'll kill you off some mashed potatoes. The bread, I'm not going to tell you to stay away from that, but I'm going to tell you not to do it every single day. Not to eat mashed potatoes and bread every single day. But I don't want to punish you to have a good meal with your family. Good meal with your family. This has no fiber in it, but if you put a fiber product with this, the fiber product that's a quality fiber product, you can eat this. Now, obviously, the triple fiber won't do it because the triple fiber doesn't have that glucose and insulin absorptive power, so that doesn't do it. But, and I apologize for that, but the fiber product that has a lot of psyllium husk, a lot of guar gum, a lot of the locust bean gum, those kind of things, a lot of the pectin, those things are basically very, very powerful. You can even have a cheeseburger again, right? As long as you mix it with that, because the whole number one reason that we're insulin resistant is because we're raising our glucose all throughout the day. This without the fiber will raise your glucose. Then the next meal will raise your glucose. So we want to get that glucose down because the insulin comes down. Because the number one cause of insulin resistant leading to PCOS, hypertension, sleep apnea, cancers, all those things that it leads to is chronically elevated insulin. So if I can mix a little bit of fiber with this and get that insulin down, so be it. But I'm going to tell you not to do this every day, all right? Just going to say, I'm releasing the reins a little bit. I'm telling you, take this, but put your seatbelt on, okay? All right. I think I got everything under control here. I'm going to open it up to questions for a second. And basically, let me see if there's anything else I wanted to say. But I thought that was pretty cool. That's the experiment. And I said, I got to show this experiment. Excuse me for going through everything. I just want to make sure. One of my favorite meals before I started this whole thing, pork chop, mashed potatoes, corn on the cob, and cornbread. Now, all you got to do is mix the fiber with that. But again, if you've had a gastric bypass and all that, when you get on the regular diet, you're not going to be eating all that. You'll eat one bite of this, one bite of that, but it'll satisfy your taste buds. But you cannot do it. Please don't do it. Please don't do it without taking the fiber, the quality fiber. Okay. All right. All right. Let's see if I have any questions here. Let me end on that note. Still not good enough, but I'm getting there. I'm getting better and better at this time. Okay. All right. All right. So anyway, let's go to what link? Yeah. So those who want the information, you can go ahead and put I'll leave the chat box open for a little while. If you want the information about that particular product, put it out. I'm not going to put it out there for everybody because again, I don't want people to think that I'm educating you in order to sell anything. I am not. You can do it. You don't have to. But if you want it, put your name. I think because you've been on the email list for the webinars, I will have your email. Just put your name and your email address and say, hey, listen, I'd like some more information about it. I'll give it to you. But I'm not trying to sell it to you. So this is good information, okay? All righty. I'm going to leave the chat box open for a little while, and y'all go ahead and ask any other questions. Oh, by the way, let me see. Forgot one important thing. I need for the scale. Is there an Elisa Redding here? In the chat box, say Elisa Redding. She won the scale. She's not here. I got a second runner-up. Elisa Redding. Elisa Redding. Elisa Redding is here. So Elisa, you won the scale. So you are here. Great job, Elisa. Glad you came back. All right. Won the scale. I'm going to get your information, I think, and have Charlene give you a call and she'll send that scale to you. The person who won the hand thing, the hand grip thing. It's Susan Kalani, Kaalani, I believe. All right. Susan Kalani, Suzanne, Suzanne Kalani, Kelani. You hear? Nope. Nope. Well, unfortunately, I didn't do a second round for the for the hand grip, unfortunately. But anyway, I want to go ahead and tell everybody basically that if you want to win the hand grip, go ahead and put your name down there in the chat again, and I'll have another drawing next week. Scale, good, good. All righty. What days are you in the office? You did your surgery 3 years ago, or we need to speak with you? Okay, I'm in the office on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Okay, but Wednesdays I'm in the operating room. Tuesdays I'm in the office all day. All right. Somebody says, I've been with you, Doc. I would love to have the scale. All right, we'll make it happen. Scale me. Okay. Very good. Scale. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad everybody is here, so I'm going to leave it up in just a few more seconds. But the final question I have for you guys, as I always do, is that because I always have the end of this as a challenge to me. Let me know if you've learned anything new today, and one of those things that you may have learned. No, if you haven't learned anything new, say you haven't. I want to hear, yeah, this is an old hack. I knew everything you talked about. But if you learn one thing new today, or two things new today, just tell me one thing that you've learned new today. That kind of stimulates me to continue to reach to the edge. Okay. All right. Muscle power. There you go. Can I get the link to buy the scale? Yeah, I'll tell you. Let me just see here. Let me share my screen real quick. You want to, if you just, I don't know why I didn't do that before. If you just want to buy the scale, go to Amazon. Let's see. Let me go to Amazon. Let's see if I can go to Amazon. Amazon. What is that? What is that scale called? It is called. For those of you who don't, BIA. Bioimpedance analysis, BIA scale. Let me see if they got it. So the one that I've tested that comes really close to our $5,000 machine, I'll show you that one. Not the Renfro, not the Arbolete, not the G. Where is it? What is it called? Somebody put it in the chat box. I got it at the office. I don't have it here. What is it called? The one that I give out. Is Patty here? I gave her one. See, these are the $5,000 machines there. If you want to buy one of those, that'll be the best bet. But the one that came really close to it, I have them side by side, and I'll put a person on one and put the person on the other one, is somebody posture. There you go. Thank you very much. The posture scale. Posture. All right. Now let's see. Posture. Where's the posture scale? $99. $99. It has a little app that goes with it. This one came close. I bought that one called the Hume, and it wasn't my favorite. It was more expensive. It was $229. Somebody want a used scale? I'll give that one to you. I don't like it, but it's not that accurate. But this one was pretty accurate. This one came very close to our $5,000 scale. It makes me feel bad sometimes. Okay. The Hume scale, like somebody says, I'm not that impressed. If you want mine, you can come by the office. I'll give you that one I got. But it wasn't as accurate as I like. Okay. Stop coming. I want it. All right. Very good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I had a great time. I wish you guys have a great weekend. And let's see, did y'all tell me anything that y'all learned? Let me see, maybe make sure now. Yes, I learned something new, how to incorporate fiber in my diet. Okay, learn how the body handles cholesterol. Very good. Okay, I almost skipped over that. I learned today how fibers lower cholesterol and blood glucose. Appreciate that. You share a picture or list of the fiber foods and doses on a one-page document. If it's not on that list, I won't purchase it or consume it. Thank you. All right. All right. Let's work on that. I'm going to put some of this information on the website. And I think my person is here. George, you're going to do that for me? And so we can get you all squared away. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all have a fabulous weekend. I enjoyed it very much. Y'all take care.